This week, please don't fall live on television. And now, the host of your show, Mike Indeglio. That's me. What is up, everyone? Welcome to K&M Geekly. Just a sneak peek at a couple of geeks talking about some of the things getting them through their week today. The whole fail-safe of the show is being tested as we got hit with another round of snow, and Keith and Ron, they put off the shoveling a little too long, but the Indeglio brothers did not. I'm Mike, and still joining me today for Geekly, that's Nick Indeglio. Nick, how's the snow? Did you dig out? How did it go?
There's a lot of snow here. It is a lot. But mainly it was the sleet and the ice on top of the snow that complicated things.
Yes.
They like to call this heart attack snow, so we wanted to avoid that. Therefore, a couple of the neighborhood kids did some of the sidewalk stuff yesterday, even though we knew it would get covered up again. And our excellent landscaping team, Buckwalter Landscaping, who does all the work in the summertime, they are doing the big plow out for us and the neighbors. So big shout out to our Buckwater team.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm pretty impressed with the tech of it all now. It used to be you kind of waited. We talked a little bit about this last week. You waited on pins and needles to see what the actual delivery would be. But I have to say, all of the different models and the different people I follow on the Facebooks and the whatnot sort of was able to coalesce about 24 hours out, PA Northeast or Northeast PA weather, whatever I think you got me following them a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of Weather Watch PA East. Yeah, there's a few.
They were able to put a pretty succinct forecast into play. Way more specific than the app. I have to say, Siri's or Apple's weather app was the worst. Up until...
18 to 23, they kept saying?
Yeah, and even while we were through it, like it said, the cumulative snowfall totals at like 24 inches, and I was like, that was not that at all. But that said, a lot of great advice. I was able to perfectly time. The second I saw it switch over to sleet is when I got out there and I shoveled. And then at 11 o'clock at night, when the sleet stopped, I got my car washed off, scrubbed, dried, so it didn't freeze overnight. It was pretty spectacular this morning to watch all the chaos of people digging out and having already did it myself. But I was pretty proud of it.
Trying to get to work there. Well, hold the presses, Mike, because guess who's here?
Oh, my goodness.
It's K&M Geekly!
Amazing.
This week, we were scheduled to begin at 1 p.m. That was subsequently pushed back to 3 o'clock, then 3:30, then 4. Then it was officially canceled. Then it was uncanceled. Then it was on at 4:05. And then it was on at 4:15. It is currently 4:05, and apparently it is already started.
Keith brought us up to speed pretty nicely there.
That was pretty effective. I'm pretty proud of it. I am not prepared for the sound of it all, but you know what? We'll make it work. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Keith.
I'm just out of the shower. 5 minutes ago, I didn't know I was on air today at all.
Did you hear our discussion about?
I heard nothing.
Oh.
I came on and you were talking about something. To be fair,
it's perfectly fitting that you just got here, Keith, because we were talking about snow, and not only did you just finish shoveling, you had a pipe burst. So you had it all, didn't you?
Luckily, I did not have a pipe burst. I just had a sink P-trap malfunctioning. So I was didn't really realize what was happening, but I got up and brushed my teeth and such, and came down to the kitchen and found that my dishes had been rained on from inside the cabinetry. Did not enjoy that. Luckily, was totally not a big deal. Wasn't an expensive fix or anything like that. But I was sort of unpleased early this morning to discover my dishes rained on by my toothbrushing water.
We were discussing the sort of how much better apps have gotten at giving a succinct forecast. We were saying the models, the things I follow at least gave me a pretty good model and pretty much lined up with how much snow we got, when it was going to change over and whatnot. Though I do find myself interestingly still getting like really pumped for like a ton of snow. And then the moment I do the first pass of shoveling or the first try to walk the dog or whatnot, I instantly am over it. I'm like, I don't like the wet socks. I don't like the having to do of it all. It really didn't do it for me.
The wet socks are a big problem. I am with you 100% on that. And yes, we got like probably 10 inches of snow here, but the top. So I shoveled twice yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
This morning was really the issue because it then like sleeted for 3 inches on top of that, which then not only is crazy heavy, but I have to like chip it out in chunks.
Mm-hmm.
So I am tired. I am a very tired person right now.
Well, that's good because we'll make this a pretty brief episode where Ron is still in the throes. He's got a very steep driveway, Ronnie does, and so we forgive him for having. I mean, I hope he makes it. I haven't gotten a text from him in a little while, so there's. Nick had mentioned it's heart attack shovel, and it's.
My mother said the same thing.
Yeah,
and I agree. My heart's like it. It's not like having a technical heart attack, but it does feel attacked by the exercise.
So it's almost your heart was triggered by the exercise of having to go through the process of all that snow shoveling.
It did not enjoy it. No.
I felt bad for the dog because, you know, that I don't know if you guys are like me, but back in like the elementary school days, even through middle school and high school, I did not love doing a number 2 at school or like in any sort of public place.
Does anybody?
Yeah, I know. Well, nowadays it doesn't bother me so much, I'm going to be honest with you. But that said, my dog has now taken that on. Like when it's snow and she's half body in snow, she doesn't really want to just do it. So I had to like go on epic Odyssean searches for spots where she felt comfortable to lay in what I call an ice shelf dookie. She could get just enough leverage to get her butt above the snow to drop it. So poor thing.
Well, have you heard of the great and powerful poop tarp?
No.
Which for those of you who don't know, and I don't know,
link in the comments below.
Nobody watches anyway, but the few people who do probably do know about my and Jillian's 15-year-old Chihuahua.
Yes.
Who is not only 15 years old, completely blind, has no teeth, and her back legs don't work very well. And let me tell you, does not care for the cold. And by her definition of cold is anything below 85 degrees. So she will not poop in the snow. Absolutely not. So what we do before it snows now is we lay down a tarp and you know, put plants on each corner. And so when it snows, we will, in its time, we'll move the tarp and it's still grass under the tarp and then move it back. And that way, she still has access to grass. She still hates her life and thinks she is being deeply abused. Sarah McLaughlin has been called many times. But that is how
That's
the poop
pretty
tarp.
genius, actually. We ended up mooching off someone else's poop tart. Poop tarp? Poop tart is an unholy combination of Dookie and a Pop Tart.
Mike,
course.
do you smell toast?
But we found someone had dug a hole out, and so we just kind of went on their property and did it. But I did clean the poop afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Interestingly, before you move on from Poop Tarts, Irish Spaghetti, the famous cover band and original parody band from the early 1990s, once made a song about poop tarts. So that's actually a real thing.
I'm not sure that makes it a real thing. It's just not the first time it's ever been said.
Okay, that's fair.
So we'll go
this week. Poop tarts.
I know you were a day late and a dollar short for that one, Keith. So before we get into it, the meat and potatoes here, we'll go around the horn. If you guys did watch anything in the snow or anything worth note this week, we'll start with you, Keith. Now that you're here,
I mean, other than the snow, no. I mean, related to the snow, as I think we've been talking on the thread. My week has been about trying to find a way to keep my outdoor cats warm throughout all of this snow and building my shelter. I forget if I've talked about it on the show.
I don't think on this one yet. I think we talked about it on the other show.
On the other show, but
Same
yeah.
difference.
So I've been building a shelter for the neighborhood cats here, who I can't get them to come inside or get them wrestled, but I can give them a dry place with food and water to be. So I have been insulating the crawl space under this little extra room in the house that they added at some point. So I have been insulating the ground and the edges, and there's a heated shelter inside, one of those like, commercial ones that is electrically heated, as well as have multiple cat beds and water and food. The trick is getting the dummies to actually go in and use it. So all throughout that entire storm, the Fuzzlebutt, who is the main cat that I care for,
Fuzzlebutt,
okay, was not in there, and neither did Cornelius, the other cat who comes in every once in a while. But anyway, did saunter in last night at about midnight, and has been.
Do you have a camera so you can tell who's in?
I have multiple cameras down there, and the other thing I've been doing has been those chemical hand warmer dealies, which cause heat for 12 to 18 hours, and they actually do. They're very effective. So I have been literally out in the blizzard, getting those things, crawling under and trying to throw them onto the cat bed, so it lands there. It's ridiculous, and of course, when I miss, I'm reaching in with a hockey stick to try to get it onto the bed. I don't know where the technological part is, other than the cameras are great. So I have a 24-hour roll that I can watch on my phone and see what he's up to. And those chemicals.
Where does your responsibility end, right? So now that you've taken it on, just keeping them warm, or will you take them to the vet? Where do you? Because they are outside cats. They are not actually your cats, right?
They are not my cats. No, they are ferals. And if I had a way, I think my next step is to work with a rescue agency to see if I can TNR, trap and release. And I don't, but I don't know if that has happened already or not.
Usually, you see the ear clip, right? Isn't there
they're not tipped. So it would be good to get a trap, get it to a vet, get him or her, I really don't know, at the very least neutered. But yeah, so I'm building trust, but it's hard to capture one. But in the meantime, he does tell me when he's hungry, and so I'll feed him.
So Nick, hopefully you were less interested in cats outside, and you stayed inside and played a game, watched some TV, maybe played a board game with your wife, or what did you do to stay sane in the 24 hours we were inside?
Yeah, it was a long 24 hours of being unable to go outside in the already cold and boring winter. But Danielle, my wife, thoroughly enjoys the snow, so she was outside every 2 hours, full snowsuit, snow pants, the whole bit.
Nice.
Just walking around, trying to make the dogs go outside. Walking to, now you talk about a steep hill. We have a giant, immensely steep hill in our backyard. Going to the bottom of that hill into the woods and leaving food for the deer. She
same as me then.
Just kind of crazy. And she begging me to go outside and walk around with her, to which I vehemently objected and would not do, because I preferred staying on the couch, being comfortable. So I did watch the first 3 episodes of season 2 of Unreal, the WWE real life documentary, or sort of real life documentary. I did not find the first 3 episodes as engaging or awesome as last season's. Obviously, the bloom is slightly off that rose. People know what the show is about. I did enjoy several of the characters across the first 3 episodes. Chelsea Green is she's gold, comedy gold and entertainment gold. So whenever she's on screen, it's really enjoyable. And they also did a pretty fair coverage of the Ron Killings contract expiring and what occurred during the time period where he thought he was released, and there was the little angle going on with John Cena, and I thought they did a real nice job covering that and showing us some of the behind the scenes that was going on. So definitely worth a watch for sure. I liked the first season. I wouldn't say I found the first season spectacular or anything like that, so I guess it's no surprise that the second season didn't catch me quite as much, but definitely enjoyable, for sure. So something to watch if you're a fan of the WWE and the personalities there.
Do you think that someone who is not, let's say, a wrestling person, or they don't watch the soap opera version, the weekly shows or the pay-per-views or whatnot, is there anything there from a behind the scenes standpoint that might spark interest in sort of the business?
Yeah, I think for sure it's more for that audience. This season in particular, like last season, for those who don't know much about wrestling, we had the retirement tour of one of the greatest of all time, John Cena, and a lot of the show focused on a heel turn where John Cena turned to a bad guy. And that was kind of like a big deal. That would be like Luke Skywalker turning, to the Sith, essentially. So that made it, I think, entertaining for a lot of fans who are already big into wrestling to say, hey, let's see what went on behind the scenes. However, I think that show is much more designed for a non-fan or an old fan, perhaps, who's fallen off the wagon. Danielle, who will occasionally sit and watch wrestling with me and, appreciates some of it, not much for sure. She likes it a lot because it very much is in line with your Below Decks and shows like that where you're seeing yachting from a different perspective, or whatever the conceit is. So it just happens to be pro wrestling with this show. And another thing they do in the first couple episodes, they spend a little bit more time with a few members of the creative team. So that's kind of fun too. You get to see a little bit more there and catch some of the personalities who are back there. One of my favorite to try to catch is TJ, who was paralyzed years ago with a neck injury. It's Natalia Neidhart's husband, and seeing him as a producer backstage, just to kind of see how the company's he stayed on with the company and became something different with them. So pretty cool stuff in that regard.
I'll quickly mention a couple of things. Number one, I watched Netflix has a new documentary on Elizabeth Smart. It's called Kidnapped: The Elizabeth Smart Story. It's about the kidnapping of then 12-year-old Elizabeth Smart, or 14 was she? She was between 12 and 14 or so. She was kidnapped for over a year, close to a year, and it was very much in the media. It was in Salt Lake, in the Mormon community, and we know. It's interesting in that I know a lot about the story. I know the resolution of the story. I remember the media coverage of the story, but it's very nice to kind of hear the players of the story get a chance to tell their own version of the events. Elizabeth Smart being mainly the point of view of her and her father, and some of the investigators. And it's good. It's not sensationalized. There's a lot of firsthand evidence and footage. It's a pretty good Netflix documentary as they've become a genre. But mostly I want to turn your attention to, it's now available on video on demand. I think it's going to come to streaming pretty soon. It is the filmed version of Merrily We Roll Along, the Stephen Sondheim musical that was revived in 2024, I believe, is when this was filmed at the tail end of its run. I'll have the director list. I can't remember her name right off the bat. Listed. Keith, maybe you could look it up for me.
Yep.
This was Sondheim's most famous flop. It ran, I think, like 9 performances, something like that. It was very few. Just critically panned. They cast really young actors originally to play characters who are much older at the start of the show.
Maria Friedman.
Yes, Maria Friedman, who also directs the film. And it stars Lindsay Mendez, Daniel Radcliffe of Harry Potter fame, and of course, Jonathan Groff. Jonathan Groff and Radcliffe won Tonys for their performances, and the show won Best Revival that year of the Tonys. And I have to say, I'm so sad I missed the production now, because this was absolutely stunning. The story is told in reverse. It's very basically, it's about 3 friends who grew up together as artists, from bright-eyed dream chasers to what life and the business can do to you. It is very specifically about artists, but it is a universal tale of just how life intercedes and dreams can be deferred or co-opted, or you make choices. And very often you end up very far from where you thought you want it to go. And it's very sad and heartbreaking to see this friendship. The end of this friendship is the first scene, and then you go back in time as it's really, really powerful. And it's one of those Sondheim things where as the older you get and the more life experience you have, the more it hits. But also I wanted to bring it here because there are 3 types of storytelling that are taking place in this filmed version. There is the performances on stage, which are uniformly spellbinding. There's an old kind of saying that, oh, musical theater is very broad acting, and it's a very specific thing. Oh, you're just giving me theater performance instead of, that is not what's taking place here. These are grounded, fully realized performances that are spectacular. If you have any doubt that you don't like musical theater or you think it's a certain thing, I encourage you to watch this film and see if you still feel that way at the end of it. They're all spectacular, to the ensemble work, to the leads. Additionally, the film direction is very different than the stage direction. They use the editing to tell a story, the tempo of the editing, the freneticism of the editing in the beginning versus how it calms and we get more wide shots towards the end. The use of close-up, though heavy-handed at times, I will say, is really great to capture their performances. And then Sondheim's score and the use of rests, whereas a line might be going in a certain direction, you think a certain word should land on a downbeat, there's a rest there and you have to wait for it, and then it comes on an offbeat. And if you listen, that is also telling the story. And it is just unbelievable. We were sitting here just like sobbing watching this. And so I know it's available video on demand right now. I'm sure it will be streaming soon. It's just spectacular. And it's in 5.1 surround. It's beautiful. The score is incredible. Wow. I never thought this was going to be, Sondheim, I'm really coming to later in life. I did not appreciate it enough when I was doing this for a living.
Well, he's one of those writers where it's different every time you listen.
Every
to
time.
It. Like, yeah. and part of that is age, part of this knowledge, part of this familiarity with the material, and you start to feel like, there's pieces that I perform that I thought I understood when I was 18, then I thought I understood it at 30, and then I thought I understood it at 40, and I probably did each of those times, but the thing that I understood is completely different. I'm excited to see that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Check it out. Okay, so another thing we all were watching. This is what I want to talk about.
Wait. Before we get there, I realized I forgot something theater related that was important. I saw Liberation this week, which is a new Broadway play by Bess Wohl, directed by Whitney White, still playing through the end of February, I think, at the James Earl Jones Theater. It's fantastic. It's basically a memory play where a character plays the author of the play. It's sort of a fourth wall break by the author playing themselves or a version of themselves in it, which is typically how I write. But it is a memory play about the author's mother, starting a sort of a feminist support group in 1970, and it's this group of disparate women coming together to try to figure out what feminism means to them in 1970. And it's all set in the school gym, and they're all having these discussions, and it's hard to describe what it is because it's really just them talking about their lives and trying to navigate how they can exist in the world of 1970 as a woman and what that means and what they want for the future and for their children. Also with the point of view of the writer as the child trying to figure out how their mother's experience in 1970 plays out from today, and what have they gained and what have they lost and what we have lost sight of. It's beautiful. The acting is impeccable. It's very emotional. It's very intelligent. It has a lot to say. And so I highly recommend it. It also has it's basically Hair for 15 minutes. So there's a lot going on. I bought a TDF ticket. I was sat third row center.
That's
and
awesome.
Just like marveled in this incredible performance on Broadway. Liberation on Broadway. Go see it. They were filming it that day, but I think for the library. But the library setup filming is pretty extravagant. They had 5 cameras going.
Damn.
for the Lincoln Center Live. I emailed the producers after. It was like, hey, are you guys gonna release that you're filming here? Or was that library? Didn't get an answer, which makes me think perhaps
We'll see.
it might be released at some point. But don't take my word for it. Go see it. James Earl Jones Theater, Liberation on Broadway.
You know what Ted DiBiase used to say? Everybody's got a price.
Everyone's got a price. Yeah.
Speaking of everybody's got a price, how much would you charge to climb a skyscraper? That's what we want to talk about. The three of us watched Alex Honnold, star of Free Solo, where he free soloed, which means you rock climb without the assistance of ropes or a parachute. This guy, famous Academy Award-winning documentary Free Solo, was his journey to climb, bail on the climb, and then reclimb El Capitan, which is an extraordinary documentary. Go watch it. And that documentary basically tries to capture his spiritual need to climb and face this type of danger and fear. And it's something that most mortal people, most normally brained folks that have actual fear receptors and things like that, you would just dismiss as that's an insane venture. There's no risk. The risk reward is not worth it. But it does a decent job in kind of giving you at least a vibe of it. And it's also beautiful and wonderfully shot and such. And also, it's all about his isolation and how he does it and doesn't want people to follow him. His wife doesn't come with him. It's just him and this camera crew that he doesn't even want there, but he allows to come with him. So I began to kind of appreciate that about him, right? It wasn't about the money or whatnot. Well, it turns out that Netflix paid him an embarrassing amount of money, that's a quote, to climb Taipei 101, close to 2,000 feet up a skyscraper, live on television with a 10-second delay in front of Netflix audiences and people on every floor taking selfies, with an earpiece in, and Seth Rollins, the WWE superstar, Emily Harrington, Pete Woods, Mark Rober, and Elle Duncan all commentating and giving us live play-by-play. Now, I kind of want to just talk about what we thought about the special first before we get into sort of the ethical and kind of media implications of this. Let's start with Nick. What did you feel about the special?
So if I'm just giving a review of the special itself, I actually was more impressed than I expected to be. I have been less than thrilled with Netflix's live events that they've done so far. With the exception of Monday Night Raw, which has already, been live for 40 years. So it's not like, that was an issue or a challenge. But Netflix itself has not done a great job in this space as of yet. And I felt like from at least the beginning of the show up through the first half of the climb, they had a good balance of commentators who knew the sport of climbing, who didn't know the sport of climbing. They had some vignettes that were pre-filmed that I think were done really well, that shows a little bit about his family, what goes into his training. I would have liked a lot more of that, actually, especially in the second half of the climb, where it definitely got a little bit more repetitive. Mm-hmm. Once some of that fear that the audience was feeling wore off, I think we could have used a little bit more connection to him as a character, as a person. Like who is this guy climbing up this building? They touched on the inherent danger several times. They talked about him being a father now of 2 children, but I feel like they obviously did that in a positive view and tried to paint that picture differently than what you're seeing online, which was a lot of negativity about this guy, like risking his life doing something, that could, make his children not have a father anymore or things like that. And the other thing that I would say for sure is it was shot beautifully. Mm-hmm. Like the various drones, the repellers that they used, the one guy who basically followed him the whole way up on the ropes, which seemed 100 times safer, but also I'm sure was crazy dangerous. As well. and just seeing, the way they showed you the many different perspectives, definitely made for an engaging view. Now, would I have watched this had it not been live? The answer is probably no. I might have fast forwarded through to the end. But the fact that it was done live really worked for me. And the final thing that I'll comment on before I turn it over to you guys would be when he started the climb, where you would hear the audience gasping as he made, just the first few floors ascending. I felt like that really tied into the way anyone watching was feeling. And I thought Seth Rollins in particular did a good job on commentary expressing utter fear and trepidation for what was starting to happen, and then anticipating how much further it was going to go as he got further up that building. So I really feel like it was very well done, and I enjoyed it as a live spectacle event.
Keith, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of that. I think you're right. Seth Rollins did a great job of being the everyman, being the us. Ironic considering he's Seth Rollins. But yeah, I thought it was beautifully shot. I agree with you that it's being live was important. Now, there's something ghoulish about that, right? And it is hard to reconcile that. It really reminded me of those back in the day ABC Wild World of Sports, Evel Knievel sort of a specials. And so it was compelling in that way. And obviously it's ghoulish, right? We're watching it live because he might fall. We don't want him to fall, but the only reason we're watching is because he might, right? Which is, I don't know what that says about us. But I thought it was incredibly well done. I disagree with the vignette thing. I hate vignettes. That's for pregame. Okay. I don't why are you showing me an infomercial? I'm trying to watch a thing.
You're second screen, man. They still had the climb featured, and it was the vignettes were second screen.
Well, it was already a second screen. By that point, I'm barely looking at I'm holding up my phone. Show me the thing that you're showing me. It starts to feel taped then. Is it live or is it not live? Let me watch the live thing. Tell me about his relationship with his cat some other time. If I'm interested, I'll watch that. But show me the thing that I'm watching. That's sort of my feeling on it. But I really did enjoy it, honestly.
Yeah, I come kind of in between the two of you there. So initially, and on our text thread, which this podcast is sort of an extrapolation of.
That's right. It was literally just the four of us texting our way through the whole thing.
Was the negative Nancy in that I had such a profound experience watching Free Solo, because it was able to translate something that just is outside of my even comprehension into something I kind of understood. And this neutered every bit of that thematically, right? His desire to climb was not financially based, was not, I need people around me. In fact, it's the opposite of all of that. Now he's got thousands and thousands of people watching him, filming him. He is not a charismatic dude, and they've got him on earpiece, talking to him, trying to get him to talk. The earpiece wasn't working. All of those aspects, trying to make him the star or his bring his personality to it, his wife and whatnot, all of that. I like the actual story of that, right? And how that is what he's risking. Okay. But their need to sort of, look, it was 90 minutes of a dude climbing, right? Like Nick said, there's only a couple of technically difficult areas for him to climb, and the rest was really just, is he gonna leave? Is he gonna fall? Luckily, the building is beautiful, the skyline is beautiful, and so there was a lot of aesthetic beauty. But anytime they tried to talk to him, it was awkward. Anytime they tried to make the live aspect, I feel very similarly to when they try to film a musical live, and we're like, ABC, Jesus Christ Superstar live. Nothing about the performances. It's now we're going to show you the costume change. We're going to have the audience screaming. And I'm like, none of that is compelling. The compelling part is just this man climbing. And what separates it from just the train wreck aspect or potential train wreck aspect is that he is the best at this. He is the only one who is so good at it that he would risk this. And so there is something inherently, I think, about the human spirit that is positive and uplifting about watching it, right? Yes, agree it's ghoulish, but the achievement is you're watching someone doing like at the peak of one portion of the human aspect. It's like watching astronauts do a spacewalk. I could never do that. And it was nice that they had some people kind of explain the technicality. So I actually came around to, you just can't help but marvel at somebody who just climbed a skyscraper and he's standing on the top of it. That's just beautiful.
Well, yes, I think a couple things. I totally get your attachment to the sort of the purity of his climbing and love of that. But I also sort of equate it as I guess theater is our theme this week. Like, okay, so you have the purity of spirit and art, and you write this beautiful show about your relationship with your dad or whatever it is, and it's this pure. It doesn't matter. None of the bells and whistles. But then you got to perform it on the Tonys, and both of those things are the Tonys is as big, it's flashy, it's commercial, it's part of the game. Those two things don't cancel each other out. Those are two things that coexist.
Yeah, and he has every right to make a ton of money and eat. I totally get that.
And and to address the how irresponsible of a thing it is, I don't know. I can barely climb the stairs, right? Mm-hmm. But my impression of it from the risk standpoint is that after rock climbing and El Capitan and all, and putting your weight on like a tiny crack in this, climbing a building, especially as structurally edgy as this thing is really not that dangerous.
Yes, technically an easy climb, but still zero margin for error, except for a couple parts where there are the way they shot it made it look like any fall, but there was a couple places he would have probably been very injured but not dead.
I mean, he easily could have splatted many times, but I don't think he, in particular, with his particular set of skills, was in as much danger as it seemed like he was.
Now, two additions I want to add. Number one, so I had ended up, it's now 3 hours of my life. I watched it an entire second time because Jen did not watch it live. So I had the experience of knowing he made it and watching it again. And I have to tell you,
interesting.
I bit my nails the exact amount of times I did the first time. It is
interesting,
just as compelling watching it because the risk and the inherent, just inevitably it's about your brain doing these gymnastics. Why would you do that? How are you doing that? Every time he takes his hands off to get some chalk and it's just his legs scissoring him to a building, it's effing insane. So it was still there. It also appears to have been very successful. The critical reception is mixed, but that's
going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be. But a lot of people watched, and it was ultimately very compelling. And I've just told you it is compelling on rewatch, so they've got something here. So that brings us to kind of the big conversation I wanted to have, which is, this isn't unique, right? Like Keith mentioned, the Evel Knievel times, right? Just as dangerous. I mean, man broke every bone in his body. You've got David Blaine, who's sitting in an ice cube and almost hypothermiating, and people are going in Times Square to visit him. You've got every boxing match where people are beating the literal crap out of each other. Hockey, UFC. I mean, we are a species who watches violent things with NASCAR, F1. I mean, those guys are flying around at unsafe speeds. So I guess the conversation is really the ethics of it, right? What separates the sort of faces of death videos that you would get at like Suncoast Video and pass around, where it's kind of gross and grody, watching people commit suicide on television and stuff, versus a situation like this where we're getting hyped and we're going to watch Mike Tyson maybe kill some guy or this guy fall off a building. What is the thin line? There's no true answer, but what is our kind of feeling about it? Who wants to jump in?
I've had this conversation at length, with a few people. One of the conversations that this immediately reminds me of is with my good friend Eric Raskin, who's been a writer for boxing, for
Ring Magazine,
all of them.
Freelance, yeah.
And we were watching, I forget which card it was, but there was a fight where it was particularly brutal going in one direction. And I happened to comment that as I'm getting older, this is getting harder to watch. And as much as I appreciate boxing, especially a very well contested match, it has become much more difficult to watch in some regards for the reasons that we kind of just mentioned. And I think as we get older, or at least as I get older, I see my mortality more vividly each day. And you can appreciate what some of these people are going through in order to just survive, just to make a living. Not a lot of people choose boxing that are already sleeping in silk sheets. They're sleeping in cotton sheets, and eventually you make it there, or you don't. Depending on what that piece is. I look at it a little bit differently from when we were kids, and the Faces of Fear, I think, is a good example. That's just, I really think, even though it's a morbid curiosity, you've never seen real life. You've never seen death and those things. So that becomes just a part of the developing brain. I think that there's a lot of psychology that would go into that. This is different. This is well produced. This is slick. It's okay because millions of other people are doing it. So if the millions of other people are doing it, then I can do it too. And this guy's not really going to get hurt. Like, could he possibly? Maybe 30 years ago, I would have thought there's no way he falls off that building. Whereas today, I'm like, the wind blows the wrong way. This thing goes in a completely different direction. So with all that being said, I think the moral and the ethical piece really kind of falls in line with where your worldview stands to a large degree. Where I am right now, it's starting to become questionable. Like, there's a part of me that kind of felt bad watching it. There's a part of me that agreed with the people saying he shouldn't be doing this. Then there's another piece of me saying, at the very same time, saying $500,000 for doing what he just did wasn't enough. Netflix screwed him, basically. So I'm totally teetering on both ends of that moral spectrum there of, dude, if this guy's doing it, man, at least pay him what he should be getting paid to create a spectacle for all of us to watch, as opposed to should he be doing it in the first place. So that's where I think a lot of it stood for me. My final comment on that would be, it felt so different than Free Solo, the documentary. I feel like so much of Free Solo was meant to have him be inaccessible to us. And that was a lot of where that documentary hit for me, was that I can't get inside this guy's head. I can't get close to him because we're so different. Whereas what they tried to do here, as you guys were explaining, trying to make us, make him be the star, I think that part failed. If they do another special that is similar to this, I bet we see their approach looking slightly different in regards to, how they check in with him and talk with him and what they give us as part of that picture there.
Keith, I'll let you jump in for a second, but I want to touch on that point quickly. I think I misstated yes, he isn't that type of charisma in the camera, and that's fine. That's not a judgment on him. My dislike for that wasn't that it wasn't a good try, because I think it's his show, it's his star. They should try to make him the star, but I think that was very fair. It's that what I learned about him from Free Solo is what you just said, is that he's a different type of dude. He needs that solitude, that inner zen, all of that to do this kind of stuff. And I was afraid that imposing that upon him we could be inadvertently screwing him, right? And I would imagine he felt more uncomfortable about that than they let on the show. Keith, I'll throw to you, but let me give you a specific. Just, one of the more recent things we saw, not but a few years ago, I think it was the Wallendas, Brian Wallenda, or one of the current Wallendas, doing the tightrope over Times Square or the Grand Canyon. Have your choice. But network television would not allow that to be without a tether. So all of those Wallendas, they were tethered to the rope in the event that they were to fall, they weren't going to die on national television. I don't think that ruined the drama. If he had been slightly cabled to that guy over there or whatnot, or had a parachute where he'd have to wingsuit afterwards, I'm not sure that the drama dies. So let's bring it back to the ethical conversation, Keith. What are your thoughts?
So I actually have a philosophy on this. And maybe this is a way that I justify my own thoughts and behaviors in terms of participating.
What is a philosophy but that?
Self-justification. I say this as a guy who loves hockey fights.
Mm-hmm.
but I will not watch MMA. And it comes down, and I watch NASCAR and I watch football, and I feel a little icky about all of those things. But for me, where I draw the line is intent, right? That if things go as planned, does it involve injury? You know, like understanding that a lot of things risk injury. Some things risk your life. You are taking risks when you're doing any of these activities. Where I draw the line is, it is not a risk of injury, it is the intent of injury. And so boxing or MMA, where boxing in some ways worse than MMA, where the intent, if this goes as planned, somebody's brain is going to shut itself off so it doesn't die. A concussion, a traumatic brain injury is the goal of the sport, not a something that could happen if something goes wrong. And I think that is where I draw the line in morality. Like, you know, I play hockey. I love hockey. Injuries happen. Horrible things happen, right? But if you're doing things, but you know, that is not the plan. You know, that, and so risk is part of life. You are risking your life every time you go and buy groceries, in the same way that he's risking, you know, going up the building. The combat sports that involve especially your head and hitting your head as part of the combat sport, aside from all of the monstrous politics of MMA, just the intent of hitting somebody in the head as the plan makes it immoral for me. That is where I draw the line.
Now, I mean, there's a conversation to be had about consent also. I mean, those two guys getting in that MMA ring most likely are growing out people who consent and are getting paid a lot of money, and they are skilled fighters. For me, the line draws.
Yes.
Let me let you counter.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, but I think Nick's point is exactly right. Is that there's exploitation there, even with consent. You know, consent itself does not absolve exploitation.
No, but exploitation also is, you know, you got to start really kind of doing a lot of investigation and assumption when you get into like, well, who's exploiting who? And I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying, you know, like MMA are highly skilled dudes, the same as NASCAR drive racers. Yes, you're right. The intent is to hurt, but here's where my line kind of gets grayed, is that, you know, these are highly skilled professionals, right? That's what we see. These are stunt guys. These are fighters. These are your WWE guys, though they make it look off the cuff, highly trained, choreographed, all those things. However, there is a new trend, and Nick pointed to it earlier, on Netflix and a lot of these streaming services, where personalities, your YouTube personalities, YouTube celebrities, are now engaging in these physical intent to hurt things with no skill training, right?
You have all the initial problems,
yes,
adding unskilled.
And people are watching because Snoop Dogg's on there, and it's, you know, like it's sponsored by Juul, Smokey. So it's like all of the things. You know, you're not letting your kid watch that. Now, it's funny because growing up, Nick, we went to the circus all the time. And you're watching people on the high ropes, and they got tigers in their face, and it's fire motorcycles.
Well, and abusing the animals.
Yeah.
And like, it's
so, you know, back to the Coliseum days. I mean, this is
100%.
We are wired for this type of entertainment. It's
sure
just
are.
interesting that we are entering a time with tech and with streaming. You know, ultimately, at least in the short term, to put a point on it, I guess, we still control what gets put on television, on streaming, by our money and or our clicks. The free market still applies somewhat. So, you know, everybody like Keith, like Nick, like myself, gets to make our own ethical judgments, but we also then hold the remote. So we gotta think about this, because I think this event, the Jake Paul type fights, is only going to increase as the billions of dollars of deals and streaming happen, and the consolidation. We're all being market tested right now by what we're watching. So that said, I agree with you guys. I thought it was pretty good. I watched it twice. So
That's
there you have it.
Literally did.
We're going to get to the weekly rad and end the show positively for a minute, but I just feel like we talk on the internet, Keith, and it is my duty to say something, and so I'm going to say it. I speak for myself. You can chime in if you want or not. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but this all said, intent and freedom. Let me put it this way. We talk about AI on the show. AI is getting very good. However, our eyes are still really, really better. We can see what is real. We can tell what is fake. Trust your eyes. People show you something, the news, the government, YouTube, whomever. If they say it's one thing and you can see that it's another thing, trust your eyes, is what I'm saying. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. I have a lot more to say on that, but I'm not going to.
I feel like I just wanted to just put it out there.
Such a good, yeah.
There we go.
Keith Varney, well, what do you got happening this week?
Yeah, boy, I'm always caught off guard by Weekly RAD. I'll tell you what, my favorite thing happened this weekend in the AFC Championship game, and that is a snow game in football.
Yeah.
I love weather in sports. The more extreme, the better. It's just great TV. It's really fun. I was rooting for the Broncos. Sorry to see that they lost, but a good snow game on television is great. And CBS tried to put those horrid digital lines on everything, and they stopped. Now, I don't know if it's because the technology broke or they actually read the feedback on the internet as it melted down saying, get that crap off the screen. Just let me watch the football in the snow. Whatever it was glorious when they turned that garbage off. Just let us watch them play in the snow.
Nick, Weekly RAD.
Well, speaking of badges, which were mentioned a couple minutes ago, the second episode of what's quickly becoming my new favorite show, which airs Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. on ID. It's called Killer Confessions, Case Files of a Texas Ranger. And the show stars a retired Texas Ranger. His name is James B. Holland. I mentioned him last week briefly when I was talking about Dateline in 2020. But this week was the second episode. In the first episode, he was featured in his interviewing style as super cocky and super full of himself. And, as the episode went on and you watched actual live interrogations, you saw exactly what he was getting to. This week, they picked a completely different type of case and perp, essentially. And he had to change his strategy up entirely, and it was actually pretty fascinating. So this guy has more than one gear, I guess you could say, and was able to switch those gears quickly in order to tailor to this particular crime murder situation there. You got everything you want in a true crime show. You've got the guys with the 10-gallon hats and the Texas stars. You've got compelling murder situations. You've got his former Texas Ranger buddy who is still in the game. So it's almost like he's getting brought in, to like try to seal the deal later in the episode. So just really, really well done. 2 episodes into, a new show that, no different than a lot of the other crime shows that you see, but just really well done and compelling. To the point where Danielle even said, "Oh yeah, we got to remember there's another one of the the Texas Ranger shows on." So James B. Holland, Confessions, Case Files of a Texas Ranger, really good.
Awesome. I'm going to combine a lot of the themes we talked about this week. We started with theater, and we talked about ethics and how we can help young people make good watching decisions and whatnot. And I'll just say this. Part of this part-time job I have, which is a lot more than part-time, is to go to a bunch of musicals, high school musicals throughout the Philadelphia region and adjudicate them as a whole and for individual performances to then it's ultimately for the Philadelphia Independent Theater Awards, but also the Jimmy Awards out of New York. And it gives scholarships and helps kids go to New York and work with professionals and realize their dreams. That all said, now-ish, January, February, through the spring is when most high schools do their big musical. There are some in the fall, but the spring is big. You don't have to have a kid in the school to go see the show. They do a pretty good job, these schools, of marketing and whatnot. Find your local high schools and go see some high school musicals. Support these kids. There aren't many people in the world right now championing the arts. So you as a local community member can do that and help kids realize their dreams. And that dream might just be performing in their high school musical. It might not go any further. So this is the chance they get. Go see them, applaud them, and who knows? You might just enjoy yourself.
And live
and it's
arts.
live. Yeah. Hey, some of us work in a pretty large middle school where the middle school theater program is pretty good. And each year you get a excellent production. So if you don't want to go high school, you can go middle school as well. I will say, based on that comment, Mike, that this is my 16th year at Downingtown Middle School, and for probably 12 of those years in a row, I have once again been robbed out of a role in the musical that I richly deserve.
Yeah.
This year's musical is Annie, and I was once again passed up on being Daddy Warbucks. So,
it's tough.
In my opinion, it was a no-brainer, but apparently they felt otherwise.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. It's tough. Good
It's
memory.
tough not being a child.
It is tough when you want to take the candy from the children and they won't give it to you. It's very annoying.
Can I also say one of the Hallmark Christmas movies that Mike enjoyed this year had that exact same plot where the adult character took the lead role in a high school musical.
Yeah.
Like that one, Mike?
That is a movie.
That's definitely a heel move.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not the best. There you have it. So that's K&M Geekly for the week. I'll leave you like I always do. Don't let anybody yuck your yum. Keep on geeking on. Trust your eyes. And how do I end it? See you next week!
I had so many things, but I chose not to say it.